There is a line you cross in the dark, a threshold of the mind, where you finally accept that the world owes you no witness to your struggle. This is not an intellectual realization. It is a visceral shift, a kind of hope, the hope for recognition of your pain, for an audience to your suffering, simply detaches and withers away. It dies in you, and in the space it once occupied, something far more substantial begins its slow, deliberate construction. You cease the unconscious vigil for sympathy. You abandon the exhausting search for someone to validate the weight you carry. You look, with unflinching eyes, directly at the world's vast, humming indifference, not with despair, but with a cold, clarifying light. This is the precise moment true personal sovereignty is born. Because the instant you internalize, in your bones, that no one is riding to your rescue, you are severed from your chains. Liberated from the need for permission. Liberated from the hunger for praise. Liberated to act, not for the roar of the crowd, but for the integrity of the result. This quiet emancipation is the only true foundation for unshakable power. The great strategists of antiquity did not traffic in fantasies of fairness. They dealt in the mechanics of reality. And the mechanics of human nature are clear. People engage when it serves a purpose within their own internal calculus. Your pain can be their cautionary tale. Your success, their useful tool. Your failure, their momentary diversion. But they do not feel it for you. Not in any enduring sacrificial way. To architect your life upon the expectation of their caring attention is to build a palace upon a tidal shore. It will be eroded, it will fall, and they will step over the elegant rubble without breaking stride. Accept this geology of human interaction, and you can finally begin to build upon the unyielding bedrock of what is. A life founded not on the fragile wish to be loved, but on the solid ground of being respected, effective, and utterly indispensable. Let us be precise. This is not cynicism. It is lucidity. The most persistent and childish fantasy is the belief that the universe owes you an attentive ear for your wounds. Real strength, the kind that shapes destinies, ignites only when you conduct a quiet funeral for that fantasy. When you finally grasp that your burdens are yours, and yours alone to shoulder. You will stop whispering the weak man's question, "Why is no one helping me?" You will begin to demand of yourself the sovereign's question, "What empire can I build from this profound and perfect solitude?" Your entire posture in the world undergoes a metamorphosis. You no longer broadcast your injuries like a distress signal. You become the individual whose quiet, unbroken composure makes others instinctively lean forward, straining to hear the silence. That silence, that refusal to perform your pain, becomes an armor more impenetrable than steel. This is the essence of stoic resilience: to endure without turning it into a spectacle, to bleed without appointing a witness, to bear the immense weight without crying out for someone to see how heavy it is. Most people, even those who wear the costume of toughness, are secret addicts to emotional exhibitionism. They drape their anguish in beautiful, poetic language. They hint, they lament in carefully curated ways. They seek the warm blanket of comfort disguised as raw vulnerability. But the strategic, disciplined mind understands a fundamental law: every public display of suffering is a transaction. You are offering your pain in exchange for attention, for comfort, for validation. And if you negotiate with this currency too often, you devalue it. You inflate the market of your own misery until it is worthless. Each time you reveal a wound primarily to harvest a reaction, you diminish your perceived strength in the eyes of the world. People stop seeing a warrior who has been tested. They begin to see a performer who is always auditioning for the role of the victim. And once that perception crystallizes, your influence, your authority evaporates. This does not mean you become a stone, feeling nothing. It means you become a vault, revealing nothing unless it serves a deliberate, strategic purpose. The world, in its ruthless efficiency, does not reward neediness. It rewards capability. It rewards the solved problem, not the detailed complaint. Therefore, the most accelerated path to becoming formidable is to consciously behave as if no one cares, even while a quiet, vestigial part of your heart might still wish they did. When you act like no one cares, you stop hesitating, waiting for a sign. You stop postponing your own evolution for a more sympathetic audience. You stop leaning on phantom support and start the brutal, beautiful work of conditioning your psyche to march through the fire alone. The individual who needs no applause cannot have his price discovered. That kind of person becomes untouchable by the opinions of the mob. He does not crave pity. He does not hunger for the gold star of recognition. Through this internal shift, he transforms into a gravitational force. People sense the altered physics the moment he enters a room. His presence has weight. This is where power stops being something you grasp for and becomes something you emit. It becomes magnetic. And here lies the great, beautiful irony. When you genuinely cease caring whether people care about you, they often begin to. When you stop twisting yourself into knots to be understood, you become enigmatic, intriguing. When you stop pleading for loyalty, people start to chase your approval. Why? Because true, earned, grounded detachment is the rarest currency in an emotionally needy world. Most people are pretending. They affect an air of not needing, but underneath the performance, they are pleading, aching, keeping score. The strategically detached individual genuinely does not need that external validation. Not because he is broken or empty, but because he has decoded the game. He understands the rules at a mechanistic level, and everyone else, who is still secretly hoping for unconditional love from the marketplace, senses that fundamental difference. It unsettles them. And in the human psyche, what unsettles often commands. Let's examine the common operation. So many sculpt their entire identity around the approval of the chorus. They speak in the language they believe will please. They post their curated struggles into the digital void, hoping for the algorithm to return the comment, "You are so strong." They decorate their social feeds with quotes about resilience, yet they fracture under the first real pressure of an ordinary Tuesday. They desire the aesthetic of toughness, the leather, the stern quotes, but they crave the safety net of sympathy. This is not strength. This is ornamentation. It is decoration on a hollow core. True resilience has no signature. It is silent. It is the person who walks past you in the street, bearing scars so profound they have reshaped his soul, yet he feels not the slightest urge to explain their origin. It is the one who does not share his pain because that very pain has been annealed in the private furnace of his will and hammered into a blade of pure purpose. That is the person people first regard with a flicker of caution, then with a decision to follow. So, the directive is clear. Stop announcing your hardship. Stop selling tickets to your suffering. Begin instead to utilize it, metallurgize it. Every single time you feel the ancient pull, the temptation to voice a complaint to an uncaring ear, pause. Remember the liberating truth. No one is listening. Not truly. Not in a way that will change your circumstances. And that truth is not a tragedy. It is your declaration of independence. It is your emancipation from the opinion of the crowd. Once you fully embrace this, your movement through the world changes on a cellular level. You quit over-explaining your choices. You quit apologizing for your ambition, your intensity, your unapologetic focus. You see with devastating clarity that caring too much about being cared for is the softest, most insidious form of bondage. And your freedom arrives the moment you release that need. This is the sacred confluence where the philosopher and the general merge into a single, potent archetype. When you operate from the understanding that no one cares, your setbacks become private data. Your progress becomes a covert operation. Your ambitions become surgical in their precision. You build without fanfare, brick by silent brick. You endure in a stillness so deep it becomes a kind of power. And then, one day, you simply arrive at your destination, and no one saw the thousands of miles you walked in the dark. Why? Because while the loud and the perpetually needy were crumbling under the immense, invisible weight of their own ignored pleas for attention, you were becoming something else entirely. A phantom. A ghost in the machine of life, learning to move through the flames and emerge not just untouched, but tempered. You did not need the crowd's roar. You needed the quiet. For it was in that perfect, profound quiet that you finally heard the foundational truth. All true sovereignty belongs to those who have stopped petitioning the world for its care. But we must be honest. This transformation is not a gentle sunset. It is a metamorphosis, and metamorphosis is never painless. You will be tested relentlessly. The old version of you, the one wired for approval, will reach out from the grave. It will crave to explain itself, to justify, to connect on those old needy terms. You will have moments in the deep of night, in the stillness between actions, where the silence doesn't feel like power. It feels like abandonment. It feels like suffocation. Good. That feeling is the sound of the weaker you dying. Let it die. Do not resuscitate it. Let the part of you that needed to be witnessed fade into obscurity. Let the part that raged when it was overlooked fall finally, mercifully mute. For beneath that desperate noise, beneath that cacophony of need, lies something of terrifying potency, the self that acts for its own cause. The self that rises not because it was lifted by cheering hands, but because it climbed the sheer cliff face with nothing but its own bloody will. That is the self history remembers, not the one who shouted the loudest story of injustice, the one who, when faced with the abyss, did not blink. Here is the unvarnished equation the world operates on. It is largely indifferent to your suffering, but it will be forced to take note of what you build from that suffering. If you use this cold truth as an excuse to collapse, you become mere background noise in the symphony of human complaint. But if you take this same truth and use it as fuel to temper your spirit, to hone your mind to a razor's edge, to ascend in absolute secrecy, you become the kind of presence that alters the course of things. You become what the strategists admired: unassailable, unpredictable, and indelible. And here we arrive at the central paradox of power. When you cease seeking care, when you stop needing to be consoled, coddled, or completely understood, you gain a subtle, profound sway over your environment. People are drawn to you, not in spite of your detachment, but because of it. They detect, on some primal level, a quality they themselves lack: internal sovereignty. The preternatural calm of someone who is not anxiously waiting for the world's permission slip. The unshakable stability of one who has incinerated his need for sympathy in the fires of his own resolve. That presence does not just enter a room, it alters the room's atmospheric pressure. It changes social hierarchies without a word. It compels the uncertain, the needy, to unconsciously mimic your posture, even if they have no intellectual understanding of why they are doing it. This is why the great tactical minds wrote their manuals for those seeking lasting impact, not fleeting empathy. Empathy is weather. It changes with the season, with the mood, with the convenience of the giver. But impact, silent, resolute, built from within impact, is geology. It endures. When you finally truly accept that no one cares, you are no longer a slave to the unpredictable emotional climate of others. You stop shivering and seeking shelter in their temporary favor. Instead, you become the architect and the mason, erecting your own fortress from quarried stone. And from the ramparts of that fortress, you look out upon the world not with the acid of bitterness, but with the piercing, crystalline understanding of a general surveying a map. You will feel no burning urge for revenge against those who were blind or indifferent to you. You will feel something stranger, gratitude. Their neglect, their silence, was the very pressure that forced you to discover your own reserves. And in those deep, untapped reserves, you finally discovered the outline of your true self. Once you cross this psychological threshold, a subtle magic occurs. The world grows quieter. Not because there is less noise, but because you have stopped tuning your inner radio to the frequency of applause. You have stopped anxiously scanning the eyes of others for signs of agreement or approval. You have stopped the exhausting work of editing your core essence to win a favor that was never yours to keep. In that newfound chosen quiet, you begin to hear a different sound. It is the sound of your own mind, operating without filter, without chain. It is sharper, clearer, more lethal in its focus than it has ever been. Why? Because you are no longer performing for a hypothetical jury. You are engineering a reality. This is the point of no return. This is when the change becomes permanent, woven into the fabric of your being. You stop waking in the morning with the weak man's plaintive thought, will they see me today? Will they acknowledge my struggle? You wake with the sovereign's single, clean directive, what must be accomplished. You begin to treat your anguish, your past failures, not as wounds to be displayed, but as raw material to be worked. The way a master blacksmith regards a pile of raw iron, not as a showpiece of what happened to me, but as the substance of what I will make. Every betrayal becomes ore. Every defeat becomes carbon to harden the steel. Every long season of invisibility becomes the precious private time in the forge. You don't weep over this material. You heat it. You hammer it. You shape it. Because the one who accepts that no one cares abandons the futile wishing for a gentler, fairer world. He picks up his tools and starts, with relentless patience, to forge a world in the image of his own capability. And here is the final, brutal truth that the cheering crowd will never comprehend. Once you stop needing the world, you begin to lead it. It sounds like a mystical contradiction, but it is a concrete fact of human dynamics. Visible need repels genuine authority. Emotional self-sufficiency attracts it. When others sense, in their animal brains, that you are emotionally complete, that you are a closed circuit, their behavior undergoes a subtle but profound shift. Their tone modifies, becoming more measured. They begin to weigh their words before speaking in your presence. Not because you are loud or threatening, but because your calm isn't a plea, it's a statement. It signals that you are not in the marketplace, bargaining for their approval. You are operating by your own internal code, and that code is non-negotiable. Look at the most formidable figures across the tapestry of history: rulers, thinkers, builders, warriors. The common thread binding them was not that they were universally adored. It was that they had systematically eliminated their need to be. Consider the Stoic emperor, ruling the known world from his saddle, enduring the loss of children, the treachery of friends, physical agony that would shatter ordinary men. Did he collapse into public performative grief? Did he launch a campaign for the sympathy of the Senate? No, he retired to his private thoughts. He wrote to himself in the silence, "Do not expect the world to save you. You must be your own unassailable citadel." That is not poetry. That is strategic reality. It is not cold. It is catastrophically effective. The Florentine strategist understood this in his bones. He knew that a leader who expects tenderness, who bases his power on the fickle affection of the masses, is already conquered in his mind. Why? Because the masses are a weather system. Today, they bask in your sun and sing your name. Tomorrow, a storm blows in and they demand your head on a pike. If your power, your sense of self, your forward momentum relies on their affectionate weather, then your power is borrowed on a short-term loan with ruinous interest. But if your power springs from a deep internal well of indifference to their affection, if you can lead, build, and move with the same steady resolve whether they cheer or jeer, offer roses or throw stones, then you have graduated to a different category of being. You become untouchable, inviolable. And that iron self-possession is the only form of power that is truly worth possessing. Not popularity, not applause, not the warm, fuzzy validation of the crowd, but command over yourself first, over your circumstances second. So, in those moments when you feel the cold sting of being overlooked, abandoned on the side of the road, or profoundly misunderstood, recognize that you are not at a tragedy. You are standing at the most important crossroads of your life. One path, well-trodden and muddy, leads downward into the swamp of resentment. The other path, steep and initially lonely, leads upward to the peaks of significance. Most choose the swamp. They sink into it. They sulk. They retreat into a bitter story, nursing their grievance that the world isn't fair, that no one saw their glittering value. They can waste decades marinating in that toxic fog. But the strategic path, the path of the sovereign mind, is different. You look at the same stark truth. You see the same indifferent landscape. And instead of mourning it, you make it your cornerstone. You stop expecting, even secretly, for the world to be fair. You start the daily, disciplined work of becoming something so substantive, so undeniable, that it simply cannot be ignored. This seismic shift begins, always, with your speech, with the words you choose, and more importantly, the words you withhold. The weak man's lexicon is full of complaint about being overlooked. The strong man's language is the silent grammar of results. You will never hear a truly powerful person over-explain, over-justify, or over-apologize for their existence. Why? Because they understand a law of human attention. Attention given too freely, too desperately, is charity. And charity, however well-intentioned, cheapens the value of the giver. It diminishes your perceived worth in the social marketplace. If someone fails to recognize your value, your worth, your capability, you do not embark on a campaign to persuade them. You do not hand them your resume and beg for a second look. Instead, you turn inward and you begin the real work. You make yourself so exceptional, so proficient, so quietly dominant in your chosen lane that their noticing you ceases to be a request. It becomes an inevitability, not because you ask for their gaze, but because their own survival, their own progress, now suddenly depends on understanding your presence, your movement, your rules. That is the fundamental, unbridgeable chasm between the man who begs for care and the man who commands consequences. When you finally stop expecting care, you undergo a profound internal economy shift. You stop distributing precious pieces of your spirit as free samples to anyone who passes by. You cease bleeding your emotional energy into every room you enter, hoping someone will bring a bandage. You quit the habit of announcing your injuries, of holding up your wounds like a lantern, hoping a savior will see the light and ride to your aid. Instead, you begin the most critical work of your life. You learn to weaponize your pain, not for vengeance, but for propulsion. You learn the alchemy of turning heartbreak into unbreakable discipline. You learn the navigation of turning rejection into a sharper, clearer direction. You master the art of transforming being ignored into the relentless project of becoming utterly, breathtakingly undeniable. Because once you know, in a way that rewires your nervous system, that no one is coming to carry you, you become the one who arrives. Under your own power, for your own purpose. People, attuned to subtle energies, will detect this fundamental shift in you, and it will unsettle them. Not because you have become aggressive or hostile, but because you have become complete. Most people in the world are walking open wounds. They are perpetual leaks of unattended emotion, constantly seeking another person to act as their psychological bandage, their emotional pressure valve. When they encounter someone who doesn't leak, who doesn't subtly beg, who doesn't feel the need to explain his every move and mood, they are psychologically disoriented. You operate on a different frequency. You are not like them. You are not present in the arena of life to be saved, to be comforted, to be validated. You are present to observe, to calculate, and to claim what is yours by right of effort and will. That energy, that glacial, unwavering clarity, is the raw material of real power. It is the same clarity that lays the foundations for empires. The same clarity that stands unmoved when old allies turn their backs and walk into the night. The same clarity that does not even blink when the crowd that once chanted your name falls into a confused, accusing silence. Why? Because when you have accepted as a fundamental law that care is not a guaranteed provision of the universe, you stop using a childish metric to measure the people around you. You stop measuring them by the warm, fuzzy feelings they provide you in the moment. You start measuring them with the cold, precise instrument of observation. You measure them by how they move, how they act, what they choose when they believe absolutely that no one is watching. That is the only arena where true loyalty reveals its face. That is the barren ground where authentic character is grown. And that is the precise, unglamorous point where real strategy begins, not with grand plans, but with clear-eyed assessment. You start to see, with painful acuity, who has earned a permanent seat at your table. Not based on the sweet wine and laughter they shared with you in your season of sunshine, but based on how they conducted themselves in your long winter, when you went quiet, when you stopped producing value for them, when you entered your cocoon phase and gave nothing but silence. You become ruthlessly, wisely discerning. You stop chasing the phantom of universal connection. You start the patient work of observing behavior, not listening to promises. You note, in your mental ledger, who sends a simple check-in when there is absolutely nothing in it for them. You note who evaporates from your life the moment you stop performing, stop producing, stop being the source of their entertainment or utility. You notice who speaks your name loudly in the banquet hall when it is fashionable, and who still whispers it with respect in the empty corridor when it has fallen out of favor. You file all of this data away, not for the purpose of future vengeance, that is a petty weak man's game, but for the supreme purpose of operational clarity. Because power is not merely about your own solitary ascent, it is also about the intelligence to know who can stand beside you on the peak without pulling you down into the chasm. Who can hold the line with you in the silent, freezing dark before the dawn. And that vital, life-saving knowledge only crystallizes when you have finally, completely quit needing everyone to care about you. When their approval ceases to be your compass, their behavior becomes your only map. Eventually, and this is the most beautiful part, your very identity undergoes a quiet revolution. The old story you told yourself and the world crumbles to dust. You are no longer the one who was hurt by them. You are no longer the one they ignored and left behind. That victim narrative, that brittle epic of grievance, simply dies from neglect. In its place, a new story is written by your actions. You become the one who succeeded regardless, the one who built anyway, the one who became formidable precisely because of the silence, not in spite of it. And this new story rewrites your entire past. It retroactively gives your pain a profound purpose. It transforms your old anguish into the necessary fuel for your furnace. It presents your former adversaries, your past detractors, with a problem for which they have no solution. Because you didn't just survive without their care. You didn't just endure. You didn't require a savior on a white horse. You became something far more dangerous to the status quo, a self-contained force that advances without waiting for applause, without begging for permission, without needing its every motive to be decoded and approved by the committee. That is what unnerves people most. That is the root of their discomfort. Most people, you see, believe they are strong. They believe they have fortitude. Until the clapping stops, until the text messages cease, until the invitations dry up and the room falls into a hollow, echoing silence. Then their borrowed strength evaporates, and they shrink, confused and afraid, back into their need. But the one who thrives in that silence, who not only continues but accelerates his forward motion, not in spite of the world's indifference, but because that indifference has become his clarifying agent, that individual transcends the human drama. He enters the realm of myth. He becomes the story that is whispered in hushed tones in corners long after he has left the room. How did he possibly survive that betrayal? How did he rise from such complete ruin? Why didn't he break when everyone else would have? The answer, when it is finally pieced together, is always and forever the same, because he stopped expecting anyone to care. He closed the ledger on that hope. And from that moment of clear-eyed acceptance, he never waited for a signal, a sign, or a savior again. He didn't become heartless. He became impeccably calculated. He didn't become resentful. He became refined, like a blade passed through 1,000 fires. He didn't stop feeling the full spectrum of human emotion. He stopped needing those emotions to be validated by an external source. And that single, monumental shift from needing to choosing is what rendered him a latent, permanent threat to mediocrity. Because when a man no longer seeks care, he ceases to be an emotional liability. He ceases to be predictable in his reactions. He ceases to be controlled by the invisible strings of others' approval or disapproval. He becomes, instead, the pillar, the one on whom others unconsciously come to depend. And, most importantly, he becomes the one who can walk away from any table, any deal, any relationship, without a single backward glance of supplication or regret. That is when you win. Not with a bang, but with a sustained silent hum of purpose. Not temporarily, but permanently. Not reversibly, but irreversibly. All of it. Every step of this transformation requires only one initial non-negotiable concession. You must accept that no one, nowhere, owes you a single ounce of their care. not the faceless world, not your closest companions, not fate, not God, not the universe. The equation is brutal in its simplicity. You will either gather the scattered pieces of your own spirit and construct a sovereign self from the void of that understanding, or you will let the immense, echoing silence of the indifferent universe consume you. For the strategic mind, for the mind that wishes not just to survive, but to author a destiny, there is only ever one choice. If this perspective begins to reshape the architecture of your own journey, your support means everything. A like tells the algorithm this message matters for Winds of Thought. And subscribing ensures you never miss the next step in building a life of unshakable authority.